Welcome.
Speaker, sir, we will be very brief in utilizing the time that is remaining, simply because this House, Mr. Speaker, sir, is this evening called upon to relook as to whether they shall have a Pontius Pilate moment. A Pontius Pilate moment, Mr. Speaker, sir, where the innocent is crucified and the guilty are set free. The Pontius Pilate moment, Mr. Speaker, sir, is not unique to our provisions of law. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is largely said in the common law principles that it's better to release 100 convicts other than to have one innocent person convicted. That innocent person, Mr. Speaker, sir, is before you this evening. Honorable members, the Pontius Pilate moment is before you. The Pontius Pilate moment is before you in the sense that within all the other allegations, some of them grievous and touching on the utilization of the finances and the resources of this country, the governor has been set free. That shows that the governor does not have itchy fingers. That shows that the governor has never had his hands in the cookie jar. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is phenomenal for persons serving in public services, and most importantly in the position of a governor, to find themselves having crisscrossed with public finances. But even as we look at the fate of the governor this evening, the governor has been acquitted of all those charges. What remains, Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, is to interrogate whether what has been presented before this House meets the threshold. The other thing that remains to be interrogated, as my learned friend has indicated, is whether this House shall be guided by the principle of its doctrines and the doctrines of precedents that have been set previously. It remains to be found, Mr. Speaker, sir, whether the governor before you, who pleads for your mercy, will have an equal treatment of the law. Mr. Speaker, it is calling for a moment of equality of arms. It is calling for a moment where Article 27 ought to be put into consideration. Mr. Speaker, sir, is giving a comparative study of the impeachments that have been brought before you and before this House, and with the recent one where there was an acquittal of Governor Wajir, the County Assembly brought 3 witnesses, of whom all of them were medical doctors. The star witness being Dr. Gurgodi. Mr. Speaker, sir, they gave a clear analysis of how the health system had broken down in Kirinyaga County. Most importantly, the question of Kirinyaga County was not something that was happening in camera. It happened in the glare of the camera instead. You recall there was uproars, there was hue and outcries. The hospital was in a pathetic situation. The doctors testified. But this House returned a verdict of not guilty. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is no evidence that was tabled. There was no doctor who was called by the County Assembly. The only person who testified, and when put to test through examination, was an MCA. Just one single MCA, alleging that the members of Wajir County are forced to fuel their ambulances. When called to task to provide evidence when the ambulance was fueled, who fueled, where it was fueled, who paid, how it was paid, the receipt for the payments, he could not tender evidence. He only said, the governor is liable. Why was the governor liable, Mr. Speaker, sir? The allegation was, the buck stops at him. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, the fundamental question is, shall a father be bearing the sins, or shall we carry the sins of our sons? Shall we be held vicariously liable for all things that happens in our own homes? If my child breaks my neighbor's door, should I be held liable? If my Wajir Jr. breaks or hits his neighbors, my neighbor's child, should I be held liable? Mr. Speaker, sir, it is time for everybody to carry his cross. The cross that the governor is carrying this evening does not belong to him. There is nobody who has been surcharged for those issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, why should there be a different fighting? Mr. Speaker, sir, the fundamental question as I sum up, I can see the light is coming up. In Governor Chepkwony's case, this House held that it's not every allegation that should amount to the draconian action of impeaching the governor. For one reason, impeachment have the ability of disorganizing government. We only have about 10 months to go. Why should we disorganize Wajir County? This man before you was in court all the way from 2017 up to 2018, struggling with election petition. That means he has only consistently been able to serve for 1 year. 2020 came, COVID came, and here he is being convicted for COVID. Mr. Speaker, sir, we all know that even today, the Ministry of Health has announced various unfortunate deaths of our dear ones. Who should carry the cross for those deaths? What about in the subcontinent of India, where people are dying in thousands because of COVID? Should Prime Minister Modi carry the cross? I mean, Mr. Speaker, sir, these are some of the pathetic situations that the COVID situation has put us in. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are here to plead for your mercy. The county is 55,000 square kilometers with over 200 hospitals. The county of Nairobi is 669 square kilometers with equal number of hospitals. Doesn't this man before you deserve credit? Look at the county of Kirinyaga, 1,149 square kilometers with about 50 hospitals. Doesn't this man deserve your mercy? Hasn't he done enough? Does he deserve to be impeached? Mr. Speaker, sir, we appeal to this honorable House to have mercy on this man. He has been in public service for over a quarter of a century. He has diligently served this country. Is it only so hard to have him and to plead with you to have him finish the 10 months? Then the Wajir people will be granted an opportunity to evaluate him through the power of the votes. Mr. Speaker, sir, this assembly is being called upon to protect the devolution. Protecting devolution also means protecting governors from such kind of attacks through frivolous means. That means, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the governor before you is also under your protection, under your mercy, that you protect devolution from infiltrations by people who have ulterior motives. He has indicated to you, Mr. Speaker, sir, about the dynamic and the demographic distribution of the people of Wajir, where clanism is so fundamental in the manner in which county governments are constituted and how they are run. Could it be, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the clanism of Wajir and the entire Somali northern eastern counties is at play? Would this assembly be then invited to look at that from that perspective? Then, if it is in play, should this assembly be involved in fighting someone's battles? Mr. Speaker, sir, we plead for your mercy. As you, Operation Rise, Article 96, as read together with Article 174, kindly look at the question of protecting devolution. Protecting devolution means that there should be perpetuity and continuity of government. There should be perpetuity of government. Was there evidence tabled to show that this man is guilty, Mr. Speaker, sir? We urge you, Mr. Speaker, to fight this man innocent. Mr. Speaker, sir, this Mr. Speaker, sir, okay. Again, we have the Simpson situation. If the glove does not fit, acquit. The glove that has been shown to this man of his work and his diligence, deliverance in the health sector fits that he continues. The allegations do not square out with the man before you. We so urge you, Mr. Speaker, to consider our mitigations, to consider our facts, and acquit this innocent man. Much obliged.
Thank you so much, Council. Thank you very much, Honorable Governor. The floor is now open to the senators to contribute to the motion. Senator Moses Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, you probably might need to give us guidance on how long we have to contribute, because I know there will be a lot of interest from members, and time is also ticking. That will also help me to organize my presentation, Mr. Speaker.
What? Sorry, you said the what? The time, you know, the gazettement goes up to midnight.
Correct. So we have the usual 20 minutes because this is a motion?
Yep, you have the 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I intend to take less than that because having listened to the governor and to his team and having read the report of the committee, I am still trying to form my thoughts about what has been brought to this House. Mr. Speaker, when this House voted to try this matter through a committee, we gave the team of 11, men and women who were not imposed on us, men and women who were chosen by our respective coalitions. Mr. Speaker, you do recall that unlike in the past, where the motion for a committee was brought by the leadership having gone through SBC, this time round, the House voted to go for a committee, and it is only upon the resolution of the House to go for a committee that the committees were constituted. Mr. Speaker, that means that this House has full confidence in the 11 men and women who went to test this matter and who have brought a report to the House today. What is the verdict of the committee? The committee is unanimous. Mr. Speaker, I've rarely seen a report that has been signed by all members of a committee. Even the report of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee on the Building Bridges Initiative, there were a few abstentions. I think Honorable Mohammed didn't sign, Opondo Kaluma did not sign, and a few others did not sign. But in this case, all the 11 members of this committee signed the report. So, Mr. Speaker, when you establish a committee to establish the allegations, and you give them resources, and you give them time, and you give them the best legal advice, and they come back and tell us that allegations are substantiated, we need to take it seriously. However, Mr. Speaker, this committee has brought to us what I would call a poison chalice. When you want to kill a cow, you go for the jugular. You don't cut the leg, hoping that by cutting the leg, it will bleed to death. Mr. Speaker, there were 17 allegations and 2 charges. Out of the 17 allegations, 1 is substantiated. The others are not substantiated. This is cutting the leg of a cow for it to bleed to death. It is not going for the jugular. What we have seen in counties and our collective experience with county governments is that there is so much graft in county governments, in procurement departments, and the county assembly, which I must congratulate, because they took the bold action of deciding this matter at their local level and bringing this matter to the Senate. And I want to encourage county assemblies across the nation that there is no governor who is above the law. There is no governor who cannot be impeached, and there is no governor who cannot be brought to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the county assembly had charges relating to procurement. The committee found them substantiated. Had allegations relating to corruption. They were found unsubstantiated. There were some very interesting allegations relating to the office of the First Lady, which is a stranger-in-law, Mr. Speaker. You go to all these county governments, you find people going by the names of First Lady. That's absolute hogwash. I don't see anywhere in the County Governments Act or any of the relevant pieces of statute where you have someone called a First Lady to be utilizing county resources and to be blackmailing and intimidating officers in county governments. And I like the way the chair of the committee said it, that you cannot stop a governor from being romantic and intimate with a wife. Be romantic and intimate in your bedroom and in your house, but not within the precincts of the county government where you are the chief executive officer. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I say that we are trying to bleed the cow to death by cutting its leg is because the focus of the charges or the focus of the allegations have been on the health sector. And nothing is more important than the health sector to county governments. Because this is one of the most important functions, leave alone roads. If you build roads and your people are dying, then you are doing nonsense. You are not doing anything of value to your people. And I think that if we focus properly on the health sector, 47 governors plus one president would be impeached today. If there is someone who has failed to deliver health services to the people of the Republic of Kenya in the midst of the COVID pandemic, Mr. Speaker, we have reports from the Health Committee, the head of state, and his bureaucrats. If you look at our respective counties, each county, right now the Health Committee is looking at COVID expenditure for each of the 47 county governments. There is no single county government that has justified its expenditure on COVID funds. It is this house that looked at the managed equipment scheme, and we failed to get a resolution on the managed equipment scheme. Today we have said this governor should go home, and so far we have the report of the committee, and I think that's a default position, that the governor should go home, because the renal units that were supplied to him through an opaque process called the managed equipment scheme were not working. How many counties have failed to use their renal units, their dialysis units, their ICUs are not working, for reasons as small as electricity and reasons as small as the poor quality of water? I visited Samburu, Mr. Speaker. I found the managed equipment scheme equipment were all kept in boxes. Why? Because they did not have a reliable supply of water in those health facilities. But this House failed to come to a resolution. Of course, we did come to a resolution because the Health Committee told us that the managed equipment scheme was a fraud, but the House did not confirm that report by the Health Committee. But the governor has failed to put in place the renal units, and for this, he has compromised the health of the people of Wajir. Mr. Speaker, a health worker died